Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, by viewer request, a Doweling Jig review. Well, back in March of 2017, I purchased this little guy, and this would be the Task Pro Center Doweling Jig. Now, you've seen it featured on different projects on the show, like the roll top desk, and I've used it on my adjustable stool build, and most recently in the microwave stand build. And I had a viewer request to run through a review of this product and exactly what I think of it. And I have no problem with that, and that's what we're going to get into today. So let's head over to the bench and see what this jig is all about. Well, I just want to start off the review by talking about the construction of the jig. And what we have is a solid steel plate in the middle that is surrounded or sandwiched between two aluminum outside walls. And as you turn the adjustment screw in or out, those plates either extend or contract equally in order to center your drilling block on the edge of your stock. Now, this is a hefty and a solid piece of material here, and we're just going to throw it on a scale, and it's kind of weird, I think, anyway, to weigh something in a tool review, but there's something to be said about the solid weight of a tool and its association with quality. That doesn't mean that a heavy tool is necessarily high quality, but at least you're getting solid material. And here we are just over 2 pounds, 1.2 ounces of solid steel and aluminum. So after 2 years of use, I can honestly say to you that this is a very solidly built jig. Well, one of the many things that I like about this jig is right there. I don't know if you can see that, but this is made in USA. And while it's not necessarily a sign of a quality tool if it's made in the States, and there are some high quality tools that are coming from overseas, it's nice to support the North American market, considering that that is where I live. Now, the capacity of this jig, at its smallest capacity, which you're seeing right here, this is 3/8 of an inch in diameter. So that is the smallest capacity that it will take. And when opened up fully, its largest capacity is 2 3/8 of an inch. Now, I'm not going to compare this to other jigs. This is not a comparison video because honestly, I don't have anything to compare it to. I can only talk about the jigs that I have experience with, and that would be this one. So at its widest, like I said, there you go. You've got 2 3/8 of an inch. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, that is some serious clamping capacity here. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I've ever doweled together anything that is that large. I'm usually down around the 3/4 or 5/8 of an inch. So as far as capacity goes, it's nice to see it has that range from 3/8 all the way up to 2 3/8 of an inch. And again, it's nice to see it made in the good old US of A. Even though I'm Canadian, what the heck? Gotta love some American product. Now, in that last clip, while talking about the capacity of the jig, you saw me playing around with the adjustment. And let's just listen to that. Do you hear it? No, you don't hear it. You know why you don't hear it? Is because this thing is smooth as glass. The steel rods here that our aluminum plates run on, they are milled perfectly and they slide smoothly. There's no resistance here when screwing it in. It's a solid mechanism, but yet easy to use. It glides nicely on both of these rods, and I've never, and I mean never, had this thing jam on me. I've never had it go off kilter, or, you know, sometimes if you get the cheaper jigs, they can go a little bit off and it'll jam these two plates and you kind of got to knock them back into place. You don't have any issues with this one doing that because the alignment and the milling on it, the fit, the finish, everything is absolutely perfect. This thing is 2 years old and it looks like it just came off the showroom floor. Other than a little bit of sawdust that's on it from use, that's going to happen. This thing has stayed true right from day one. But as with any tool, if you take care of it, it will look pristine for its lifetime. So what do we have here as far as drilling capacity goes? Well, the way that this jig works, after it is centered on your board, you have two permanently milled holes. And those holes are 7/16 of an inch here for this one, and this one here is 1/2 an inch. And you can choose those for your doweling without any kind of bushing whatsoever. Well, then the task centering jig also comes with 6 of these threaded inserts because these other 2 holes are threaded. And basically, depending on the size of dowel you want to use, you choose your bushing or your insert. And it comes with 3 different sizes. These ones are 1/4 inch, then you've got a 5/16, and finally a 3/8. So they just screw into here, they sit into the hole, and you just thread them down until they butt up tight against the steel edge of your center plate. And again, these are also solid material and they're excellently milled. I've never had them again jam or even come close to cross threading, and they are just spectacular in the way that they fit and the way that they work. Well, we've talked about fit and finish, quality of construction, ease of the movement of the plates. We've talked about capacity of the material as well as the different options in drilling sizes. So how do you use the jig? And that's the next thing that we're going to get into, which is the ease of use. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get some scrap wood and we're going to go through exactly how you would go about doing a dowel joint. Well, what I've got is 2 scraps of maple. This is just for demonstration purposes, but if this was your project and let's say you want to join these 2 pieces together along this edge and you want to strengthen it and use dowel as your joinery method. Well, the first thing you want to do is a dry fit. And here we have it using bench dog clamps and that sort of thing held together the way that we want them joined. And you want to decide where you want your dowels. Now, I'm not going to measure anything here because it's for demonstration. So what you want to do is draw a line across where you want your dowels to be. So we'll do that. We'll do 2 dowels. You know what? No, let's do 3. Let's do 3 dowels. There we go. 3 dowels. 1, 2, 3. Done. So this is very similar to the process that you would use. In fact, it's identical to the process that you would use if you were using a biscuit joiner, where you need your line on both pieces in order to line them up. Well, the next thing that you want to do is you want to set up your jig. And I've decided that I'm going to use 1/4 inch dowels for this. You could use whatever size you want depending on your project. So I've placed my inserts into the threaded holes, the 1/4 inch inserts, and you want to set up your drill bit. And for that, you use a depth stop collar. Now, these do not come with the jig. If you want to use a depth stop collar, you're going to have to get your own. But you place your bit through here, and I've tightened it onto the shaft of the bit just so that this bit protrudes about 9/16 of an inch, because in this case I want to have about 1 1/8 or just a little longer length of dowel. So inside of each piece we're having just over 1/2 inch of dowel actually being glued into our stock. And once you get that done, your drill bit is set and you can move on to the drilling process. I've clamped my board into the front vise of my bench, and we're just going to place the jig over top of our stock and just loosely clamp it on there. And I'm going to zoom in a bit now so you can see exactly what's going on in our view windows here. Well, up inside our jig in these little windows, I'm going to try to point to it here, but right up in there you can see some etched lines that are in the steel plate of our jig. We have one here and one over here, and those coincide with the bushings that will guide our drill bit down through our stock. And you can see here on the left, we've aligned this one with our line. So all you need to do is line that up. Once you get that lasered line or that etched line in place, tighten your jig so that it's not going to move, and then run your bit down through that bushing. Now, once you get that done, loosen your jig, align the etched line with the next pencil mark that you've made, tighten it down, and drill the next hole. And then because I got all silly on this and made 3, we've got to line up the third one as well and drill that. And that is our 3 holes drilled in our one piece of stock. So all we need to do now is repeat the process with our other piece. So I've got 3 pieces of dowel now that are just over 1 inch long, and these are shop made, so they're a little on the tight side. I would prefer them to be a little looser than this to allow for glue, but it's just for demonstration purposes. So here we have the dowels in. You can see that they're nice and straight, nice and square, and we just want to line up our other piece of board. I'm not sure how tight this is going to fit. I may have to clamp it together to get it to go. No, we don't. Check that out. Look at that. That is absolutely spectacular. Like, I can barely get that apart now. That's because the dowels are so tight, but that's without any glue and the thing is holding together like that. Nice and flush here, nice and flush. I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm going to try to hold that up there so you can see that the joint is flat here. It didn't make anything wonky. It perfectly centered those holes on these 2 pieces of stock in order to make them line up absolutely beautifully. So there it is, and I guess with the joint and all of the whatever said and done, what do I think of this? What do I give this on a scale of 1 to 10? You know what? Let's give it one of these. Let's give it a 9. And you know what, guys? You're probably never going to see this on my show again because it's pretty rare, but I'm going to give it a 10. Why? Because I absolutely love everything about this jig. Usually when I do a tool review, there's something that I don't like. There's some little quirky thing that ticks me off or that frustrates me, and I look at it and I think, what the heck were those designers thinking? Obviously, they are people that don't use the tool. That's usually the way it works, right? The guys that design it don't actually use it, so they don't think about the process that is needed in order to make it work. I'm telling you, whoever designed this is a woodworker, because I love everything about it. I love the fact that I have a variety of holes to choose from. And truth be told, on almost every one of my projects, it's always been a 1/4-inch dowel that I use. Why? Because that's what I like to use. But I love the fact that I have options. An option that goes from 1/4-inch, 5/16, 3/8, 7/16, and 1/2 inch. And I can choose whichever I want, whenever I want. I love the fact that it's rock solid. I love the fact that it's heavy. I love the fact that it's made in the States. I love the fact that it's solid steel, solid aluminum, and that it's smooth as glass. I love the ease of use. If I had to pick one thing that I was iffy on, it would be that etched line, because that allows for me and my eyes to look at it a little different and possibly have a hole that might be a little off. But whose fault is that? Is it the tools? No, it's this guy's fault, because his eyes are all wonky. All you got to do is just be careful and line it up. So there you go. You'll probably never see it again, but a 10 out of 10 on a tool or a jig that I've reviewed. Guys, if you're considering a doweling jig, there are 1,327,625 of them online. Okay, I made that number up. There's a lot of them. You need to choose the one that is right for you. And I chose this one for basically all of the details that I gave you in this review. Everything that I've listed was the reason that I bought it. It can be a little cumbersome on smaller projects, but you learn to work around that. And it doesn't matter what jig you're going to get, there's going to be some form of tweaking to your methods that you're going to need to use in order to make it work for you. And this one here, honestly, there wasn't too much that I ever had to tweak with this. I absolutely love this jig. And if you're considering a doweling jig, don't discount this one. It is pricey, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a little more expensive than some of the other ones out there, but I've never had a problem with it. I've never had a bad joint. I have never had this thing put doubts in my mind, and the only errors that I ever did have were caused because of these eyes, not because of the tool. Okay, it was caused by the tool, but it wasn't this one. Guys, I really want to thank you for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to click that bell so you get the notifications of future shows. And I hope you're going to join me next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.